TV star Jill Dando was shot dead on her doorstep on a spring morning in 1999.
I did hear a scream.
There's a lady slumped outside Jill Dando's house.
That woman has been identified as Jill Dando, the television presenter.
Her murder remains unsolved. 26 years on, the Daily Mirror investigation can reveal crucial new evidence. It includes testimony from a second eyewitness who says a man they saw running near the murder scene looked like ruthless assassin Milorad Ulemek. We tell how the hitman's former spy master admitted ordering murders abroad, and he provides compelling new evidence about the possible motive for the murder. The first part of our investigation was published in 2024. It focused on a mystery man known to police only as N6814. He was caught on CCTV a mile from Jill's home around 23 minutes after the murder. The suspect is still wanted for questioning. Facial comparison expert Emi Polito concluded that ruthless Serbian assassin Milorad Ulemek bears a striking resemblance to N6814. Mr. Polito could find no differences between the two men's features. An eyewitness who was driving near the murder scene said she was certain Ulemek was N6814. Just 9 days after we released our findings, Met Police Chief Sir Mark Rowley dismissed them. His officers had not visited the key witness or requested Mr. Polito's report. Now, fresh evidence we've uncovered indicates that Jill was indeed the victim of a state-sponsored assassination. A former Met Police chief who reviewed the case at the time is today calling for our findings to be investigated. The expert evidence of how Jill was killed is terrifying and graphic, but we believe it is central to understanding the case. The killer pressed the muzzle of a pistol into her skull, meaning the sound of the single shot was absorbed by her head, which acted as a natural silencer. The customised bullet destroyed her brainstem, immediately shutting down her heart and lung functions. Jill's inquest was told that it was an unsurvivable injury. This was an execution carried out with military precision. Using the police files, we have gone back to the very beginning and looked at what the witnesses reported seeing on the day of the murder. My name's Tom Pettifor, and I'm here in Gowan Avenue with my colleague Matt Young, news reporter.
We're going to walk you through now what each of the witnesses saw in the moments after Jill's death back on April the 26th in 1999. Sometime after 11:30 in the morning, Jill's next-door neighbour heard her BMW car locked. 30 seconds later, he heard a female scream. He said that he'd heard female footsteps, but no other footsteps. When he looked out of his upstairs window, he saw a man, thick-set, in his 30s, with dark hair, walking away in the direction of the Fulham Palace Road. He said he thought this man looked calm and calculated. He was not aware there'd been a gunshot and thought Jill had merely fallen and banged her head when he saw the blood.
I did hear commotion, but at the particular time I didn't think that the commotion was...
What did you hear?
I heard the scream.
A second witness saw the suspect at exactly the same moment as Jill's next-door neighbour. He lived on the other side of the road from Jill. He said the man ran very fast up Gowan Avenue towards the Fulham Palace Road, looked over his shoulder at one point, spotted the witness, and then he slowed down as if to try and look a bit more natural.
A dog walker placed a bet at the Tote betting shop just here, and his slip was timed at 11:37 a.m. He left that shop immediately, walked across Gowan Avenue, and at this point he saw a man running across a pelican crossing and almost getting hit by a car, which caused him to stumble and grab hold of a traffic light post. One female motorist driving north on the Fulham Palace Road said she saw a man running for his life towards Putney Bridge Station.
A few moments after the female driver described seeing a man really sprinting down the Fulham Palace Road, a second driver going in the opposite direction says a man runs in front of his white van, almost ran him over. He braked very hard before watching the man run into the park. He said he knew what he'd seen was very strange, and as soon as he learned that Jill Dando had been murdered nearby, he contacted the police. We have now found that witness and spoken to him in detail about what he saw that day.
And then all of a sudden he came running out, and then I thought nothing of it, carried on driving, and he literally ran straight out in front of me.
And I've shown you an image of Milorad Ulemek. What do you think of his likeness to the person you saw?
I thought he was very much alike. I'll say about 80%.
So do you feel that the police should investigate Milorad Ulemek?
I think they should, yeah. Nothing's been done about it for the past 25 years, which is wrong.
The police files show that 26 hours after the murder, a call came in to the Daily Mirror news desk from an anonymous person saying that 2 men were involved in the murder. They said that the gunman was helped by an individual driving a dark blue Range Rover. They said that that person was waiting in this Range Rover at Bishop's Avenue here at the time of the murder. A witness was standing at this bus stop around 150 metres from Gowan Avenue when he described seeing a man in a suit walking from across the road from the area of Bishop's Park. He said this man was wearing a suit and was sweating heavily. The witness said he thought it was strange that both buses that stopped at that stop arrived while the man was waiting, but he didn't get on either of those buses. The bus stop witness came forward as soon as he saw the news that Jill Dando had been murdered because he realised he'd seen something suspicious. The bus stop witness had such a good view of the potential suspects that he produced an e-fit, and this was released by the police a few days after the murder.
This is the man who is described as sweating heavily. The sweat had reached into his collar of his shirt, and that is what drew the attention to the witness. This is the man who had a mark on the bridge of his nose, as if perhaps he'd been wearing spectacles. He is the man described as being smart, wearing a dark suit. Who is this man? We would ask him, if he has nothing to do with this investigation, to come forward and eliminate himself.
A 74 bus driver came forward when he saw that e-fit and said that he had picked up the man at around 11:47 on the day of the murder. At the heart of this tragic case is the decision by the Met Police to dismiss their original prime suspect. 8 witnesses near Jill's Gowan Avenue home described seeing a white man of a similar age and height in dark, smart clothing acting suspiciously. The man was described as either running or sweating. These sightings were understandably the main focus of the police investigation in the weeks after the murder. They released an e-fit of a sweating man seen by one of the 8 witnesses. But detectives gave up looking when they began to focus on local man Barry George nearly a year after the murder. Crucially, none of the 8 said George was the man they had seen. Just as importantly, the running, sweating man or men has never been found. Who was this man? At the time Jill was killed, Milorad Ulemek was a senior member of the JSO, a 500-man unit of the Serbian intelligence service. The JSO carried out state-sponsored murders. Ulemek told a Belgrade court in 2014 that he made himself available for what he described as a special operation on April the 15th, 1999. That was 11 days before Jill was killed. We can now reveal that his spy master at this time has admitted plotting assassinations abroad for the Yugoslavian security services. Dragan Filipovic, known as Major Fika, writes in his book Anatomy of the Globalist Stink that he covertly dispatched several special forces units into Europe after NATO began bombing Yugoslavia on March 24, 1999. He wrote that one of the plots, which he described as a secret reprisal action deep inside enemy territory, was successful. Filipovic does not specify what the operation was, though the clear implication is that it was an assassination. A source with knowledge of the Serbian security services told the Daily Mirror that it was Filipovic who headhunted Ulemek for his JSO unit after meeting the soldier while fighting in Croatia and Bosnia in the early 1990s. Filipovic was believed to have accompanied Ulemek when he attempted to assassinate Serb politician Vuk Draskovic in October 1999, the source told us. Filipovic is today believed to be living in China after fleeing Serbia when Ulemek was arrested for 2 assassinations. Filipovic's book also gives us a better understanding of the possible motive for Jill's murder. He rails against non-governmental organisations, saying they are designed to destabilise and overthrow foreign leaders in the interests of the West. The Serb nationalists believed they were based on the doctrine of special war, a tactic of using intelligence and propaganda to destabilise regimes around the world. This is important because Jill fronted an appeal for some of the world's largest non-governmental organisations just 20 days before she was murdered.
We've all become aware of the humanitarian crisis facing the Balkans as thousands of people from Kosovo have left their homes and arrived on the borders of neighbouring countries. Most aid agencies were already working in the former Yugoslavian region and they were quickly in action, but to meet the massive demand of this humanitarian crisis, they need your help.
She described Kosovo in the Disasters Emergency Appeal as a former Yugoslavian region, a phrase that would have enraged Filipovic, who saw it as the cradle of the Serbian nation. The source with knowledge of the Serbian security services told the Mirror that this statement could have been taken as offensive at the time, resulting in Filipovic potentially taking action. Ministry of Defence files obtained by the Daily Mirror show that in the weeks before Jill was killed, there were 5 warnings that Yugoslavia could be planning covert attacks in NATO countries. It is understood that none of the secret files, which have been recently declassified, were made available to the Met Police team investigating Jill's murder. Hamish Campbell, the retired detective who led the investigation, said last year that by November 1999, he had established that the sweating man in the e-fit was not the killer. He added that he was sure that the running man, if he was another person, was also not the killer. Mr. Campbell said he came to this conclusion by drawing up detailed analysis charts. They showed sightings that witnesses saw, including the timings, the clothing, and the general description of the person, and the differences and discrepancies. Ex-Met Detective Chief Superintendent Barry Webb, who reviewed the case after 5 weeks, has denied that the investigation was flawed. He described Mr. Campbell as a professional and talented officer who was investigating all possible angles with an open mind. Mr. Webb said, "His documentation in policy files of his major decisions and reasons for them was among the best I've ever seen." He added, "With regard to the running man, it was my view that there was insufficient nexus to the shooting for this to be treated as high priority." Now, 26 years on, alongside a host of other high-profile names, former Met Police Chief Barry Webb, who reviewed Jill's case in 1999, is calling for our findings to be investigated. A cold case a quarter of a century on now has more questions to be answered.